Big Sky Howdy, and welcome to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio, coming to you from the top of the continent and my Pearl Tower high atop Grim Mount Badass, and also coming to you from the deepest, darkest depths of Stygian frozen Alaska. We have the return of Sunny, who hasn't been with us since episode 32 when she was surrounded by hunting Sasquatch. And this time she's going to be telling us some stories from up in Alaska. And yeah, there's Bigfoot in Alaska. So we're going to be hearing some Bigfoot in Alaska stories. And so welcome back to the show, Sonny.
Thank you for having me back.
Very welcome. I'm very grateful that you finally managed to make it back again before episode 100. That's kind of cool. And I know you've got like lots of experiences up there in Alaska. And the most interesting one to me that we should start out with is begin at the beginning, right? When you were a little girl, your parents, for some unknown reason, wanted to go move to Nahanni Valley. Yeah, the Valley of the Headless Man. This is a great idea. Let's go homestead Nahanni Valley. Oh, God, have you ever looked at a travel brochure? Well, apparently your parents hadn't. And luckily for you, the canoe couldn't be manufactured in time, which saved you from going there and living there. So what ended up happening at that point? Did the folks actually stay up somewhere else in Alaska, or was the whole thing just kind of nixed?
Oh, no. We were in Canada, in the Canadian Rocky Mountains.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after both served in the Vietnam War, so they wanted to be completely away from people. So we'd been living in a teepee up until then, out up in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. And I need to call my dad and ask him why. But they thought it was beautiful. I know that they thought it was gorgeous and beautiful and it was pristine, and they just...
Oh, God. So like somebody showed them a picture in the Nahanni Falls or something, and they went, oh, that looks awesome. Let's move it. Oh, my God.
Yeah, great. People aren't there, so, the hunting will be great. And, and they had a guy start building a canoe because they were going to canoe with 3 children, by the way, all under the ages of 4. Wait, no, that would have been 3, 4, and 5. But yeah. Canoe down river to get there, but the canoe, the guy kept having to push the date back, and thank God, because by the time he did get it finished, they had just turned it into a national park, so you couldn't homestead there anymore.
Yay!
Well, it took a couple extra months, and thank God, because I probably would not be here. And when I found out that I found this out when I went back, and I'm like, "You're going to Nahanni? Really, Dad? Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's beautiful there." I'm like, "You even know?" And he's like, he still doesn't. Yeah, he just kind of rolls his eyes and goes, "Well, yeah." I think he's still
just because dozens of people ended up with no heads and their corpses were found there later, that's no big deal.
I don't think he knows that's part of the story of that area. He didn't.
And what's the moral of this story? Do proper research before you move.
Yeah, I agree. I was like shocked when I found him. Like, what? When it said Nahanni Valley, I whipped around on my chair. I'm like, what did you just say, Dad? He goes, yeah, we should go to the Nahanni Valley. And my mom was like, yeah, we'll get the canoe built. And I'm like, wait, what? But then again, we didn't have computers and stuff back then and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And,
we were living off it.
To catch up people that aren't completely aware of this whole thing, Nahanni Valley is the Valley of the Headless Man. A lot of prospectors would go up there and then they wouldn't hear from them again, and they'd go looking for them and find their headless corpses. And that's why it got the name the Headless Valley. and the local natives won't live anywhere near it. They have actually, according to archaeologists, moved their settlement several times further away from it. And they say it's because there's bad things that live there that will kill you and like tear your head off. And one of them is the Naha and the other one's the Nekani. And the one of them are supposed to be like giant cavemen with weird armor and strange weapons or something. And the other one are like type 4 Bigfoot or something that rip your head off. Yeah. But either way, you don't want to be up there. There's probably other terrible things there. Now, you had another story about that valley with somebody that you knew. Now, and see, this is really interesting because it's like really hard to get a copter pilot to take you anywhere in that valley. And I think you know where I'm going to this, so go ahead and pick it up from there.
I have a friend, she's a geologist, and she wanted to go to Nahanni Valley to check out the geothermal pools and stuff like that. And yeah, well, you can take helicopter flights and you can float down the rivers and do all sorts of stuff, but people really don't want to do that. But you're not supposed to, when you take a helicopter tour, you're not really supposed to touch down on any of the areas.
Yeah. And really, you're not even allowed to like randomly hike around in that place or anything. People have tried it and they're given the you can't do that, we don't allow it speech.
Yep. They only allow certain areas where you can go. So
yep.
Just a second, I'm looking. Anyways, she paid him several extra $1,000 for him to set him down by geothermal pools and to, you know, he refused to wait. He absolutely refused. He's like, I'll take your money, I'll set you down, I'll be back. And she goes, a half hour. So he's like, okay. He goes, if you're not back here, I will not wait for you. I mean, it's that bad that he's like, he will not wait. So she said the helicopter took off and, you know, because they wanted to skinny dip and do some other interesting looking for gold and stuff. And they found, you know, flecks of gold and other, you know, evidence of gold. Anyways, it was not more than a few minutes with them being there, and they started hearing screams, horrifying screams from a distance, and guttural growls that are, you know, it was terrifying to them. They're like, they didn't wander off like they were going to. They stayed pretty much where they landed in that tiny little area. It was like 15 minutes, if that. They saw the helicopter was coming back and they were like waiting, you know, frantically for him to come down and touch down. And he did, and they all got on. And she was like, oh my God, we're gonna die. And they asked, why'd you come back so soon? I mean, they were grateful, but they wanted to know why. And he said he had seen something and he had a bad feeling about it. So he came back and picked him up. And they were asking him for more information, pressing him, but he was like, nope, I'm just not supposed to. I don't ever stay. You don't land. And he just he wouldn't say anything more for information, but he just refused. And then he goes, this is why I don't take visitors off the beaten path.
Yeah. So between the whatever it was screaming and moving rapidly toward them and his reaction, you can kind of guess what might be going on there. So the other thing is that, you know, you've got lots of encounter stories from, well, you've seen a few of them yourself, but you've got lots of encounter stories from folks up there. You know, and one of the things that comes to my mind is some of the more dangerous subvarieties live up there in Alaska. Do you get a lot of people go missing up there?
We have our own little Bermuda Triangle. It's actually called the Alaskan Triangle. It's by far bigger than the Bermuda Triangle is. It goes from Yakutat to like Anchorage all the way up to Nome in that triangle. And I mean, yes, a lot of people go missing because they're stupid and Mother Nature is not forgiving of anything. However, Mother Nature also contains all sorts of other things that aren't so nice, not just bears and moose and other things that want to kill you up here. But I know that there's a mountain that hikers would go up, and very few would ever come back down. And this person I know used to tell them, don't go up there. And sure enough, they wouldn't listen, and they'd go hiking up to the top of the mountain, and they're never seen again. That's several times a year that happens. So when there's no bodies ever found. So
Anybody ever made it up there and made it back again?
I'm sure there has to be, but I would not bet my life on that. So
You'd think after enough people disappeared in that one area, they would give up on going up there.
Yeah. You'd think, but people, they don't want to believe that anything other than the normal things running around out there. Well, that's not true, because most of us up here know that there are things because we've seen something, or somebody that we've known has seen something. Somebody has, it's common enough that it's a common knowledge, but more of a taboo subject. Like over at Mount Iliamna. There's Mount Iliamna monster and stuff like that. Those are like giants and trolls over there. I know it sounds crazy, but
no, actually, that's the impression I've gotten from what I've heard of the area too. That they're probably mountain giants or mountain trolls, same thing, and that they live in that valley on the opposite side of the mountain range. And the natives that live on the other side of the lake not only won't go over there, they'll get like positively homicidal if you say you're going to go over there, because they don't want these things to come back and attack their village.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll usually just say, you don't want to go over there, but people will be like, and you go over there and people go missing. And we have the Lake Iliamna, an aquatic
lake monster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's been seen for, good Lord, since I can't even remember the date, but hundreds of years. They think it's like a... Huh?
Go ahead.
They think that it's a dinosaur, basically, like a what's the name of that dinosaur?
Plesiosaur or something.
Thank you.
That's their favorite theory for most of those lake monsters.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that most of those lakes, if you're talking about Loch Ness, and you got Nessie, and over in Scandinavia there's Stussy, and then you've got the Ogopogo, and you've got all the ones across Canada and everything. And it's interesting that mostly the lakes that have these reports of the lake monsters are always the ones that are like pretty far north. You don't really get this very much in the southern lakes. It's the ones that are pretty far north that seem to, get the reports of these big lake monster things. And it always made me kind of go, what's the deal with this? Because it's counterintuitive. You'd expect that big warm lakes in the south would have giant lake monsters, not big cold lakes in the north.
Yeah, and also if you take a look at the ones that do, the lakes run very, very deep. They're not shallow lakes. They're very deep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the case for most of them too. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But we're more interested in the Bigfoot thing here. So what other things have you heard about the trolls on the other side of the mountains there? Have you heard anything else about them?
Not really, from what I can say. I mean, I'm not really... I know just not to go there. I know the general area in which they live, because you're told to stay the hell out of it.
Right. I know that the local tribe there are pretty, or the natives that live near the lake are pretty serious about that too.
Yeah.
About don't go there, leave them alone.
I'm not going there, so not going to do it.
Have you heard? Is there stories of anybody that's actually done that?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I'm sorry. My brain is... I know it probably is, but my brain isn't recalling right now. It's just blank.
Well, let's talk about some of the other scary cryptids up there. What kind of good Bigfoot scary stories have you got for us?
Well, there's an old man I know. He moved to Alaska in 1943. He was like 18 or 17 or something like that, and wanted to mine and make his he could stamp in gold. And let me see. I think he moved to Chattanooga first, and then down to Cook Inlet area. And he mined for a long time down in Yetna. And he'd always hear the screams, and none of the local people would talk about it, and at all, until he said he saw some pretty scary things over the years, but then he never told people either, because it's kind of like you don't want to sound crazy.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't know who's going to come steal your gold, jump your gold claim and stuff like that. But
Well, I don't know. If I wanted to keep people away from my claim, I'd be selling the monster story right and left. Oh, yeah, the place is crawling with monsters. I wouldn't go anywhere near there if I wasn't armed to the teeth. They'll keep away from it.
Well, it was bad enough that him and his friends split up. He didn't want to live in the area because he'd come up with a couple, like 2 friends. I can't remember, 2 or 3 friends. But anyways, they split up. And he journeyed up here to the Matanuska Valley area on the Willow side. And good Lord, we used to sit and have coffee and talk for hours. And he's seen like all sorts of things. He called it the wild man a lot. And he said over the decades, like they'd mess with his gold. I forgot what it's called. It's like a slaw. It moves the water anyways. But they'd mess it up and stuff like that. And but over the times, he started learning the different screams. He'd start seeing them, and they were not friendly. In the Matanuska Willow area, they are not friendly at all. We're talking about up on oh geez.
Oh God, is that where that one prospector got chased out of that valley by like a herd of them? And came back with the ore and dropped it off to his buddies and said, "Oh yeah, I found this place where there's all this great gold ore and there's like monsters in that valley. They chased me out of it. I barely got back to my canoe. You can go there if you want. Here's a chunk of ore. I'm leaving for San Francisco as soon as I can get to the coast."
That wasn't him, but it sounds pretty much like the area.
Yeah, if I remember right, that was in that area where that happened to him too. That was back in the old gold rush days.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he was the one that was telling me all about different stick structures before I even knew about them. And different screams, different things mean different things. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, my speech isn't the greatest because for y'all out there that don't know, I have a TBI that affects my speech.
Yeah, you got hit by a car not too long, a few days ago, so that didn't help either.
That didn't help, yeah. But anyways, he told me there was one time when he was coming home. He'd been out because he had his tiny little cabin that he built. He still lives in. Well, I haven't seen him for like a year, but he had to not stay at the cabin because he'd go out to where he was prospecting, stay out there for a week or 2, then come back. Go into get supplies, come back out. But he said there was one time when he'd come back to the cabin and all of his stuff had actually been gone through. Not like a bear, because bears just smash and eat.
Yeah.
But literally things were opened. And he like barrels. He had barrels of salted pork and salted meats and stuff like that, and flour and sugar, because it was back in the day. And it was like literally opened up, not smashed, like strewn around, but like a human, but not a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most of it was eaten or taken. Things were messed up, but as he was saying, he goes, he ain't no human did that. I know it was one of those damn Sasquatch. Don't leave me the hell alone. That's what he was saying.
Friggin' Sam Squatches.
Sam Squanch. Oh, I wish I would have said that to him. He would have laughed his butt off. He had it wasn't a love-hate, it was a tolerance-hatred.
Yeah.
He goes, some of them he disliked the young The young squatches.
Well, those are the ones that generally cause all the trouble, so I could see why.
He did not like the younger ones because they were more aggressive. They would just destroy shit. Sorry, didn't curse, but they would just like destroy everything. And because he's, didn't like having to rebuild everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
having to rebuild stuff makes you want to sling lead in the direction of whatever breaks it.
yeah, which he did a couple times, and then he realized that's probably not the greatest idea. Now, he has said that he has killed 2 in his lifetime. But he said that the one that they had killed, it was him and his friends with them when they were down in Cook Inlet area, that was part of the reason why he decided to leave. They kept coming in, being camp robbers, coming into his camp and not just robbing what they had, but destroying everything too. And for some reason, they would destroy any fur that they had trapped and got and stuff like that. So coats, anything that was fur, they would just rip it up for some reason. And up here, you're going to die if you don't have that stuff in the winter.
Welcome back. At that point where we were doing the recording, we completely lost the signal on our guest, and so we're going to have to pick it up with them later on here when we get a chance to record again and get more updates from sunny Alaska. Meanwhile, let's go down to the actually seriously more sunny area to the south of me, which would be the Lonestar state of Texas, and we'll do some updates here with our former guest, and again, back on the show, Brett. And if you recall from last spring, he and his girlfriend were having some pretty bad problems with some teeny paranormal terrors. And he's back to give us updates on what's been happening since the last time he was on the show. So welcome back to the show, Brett.
Thanks for having me back, dude. It's glad to be back on the show.
So, yeah, I hear you've been having some more problems with them, and now they're like changing their center of attention, apparently. So what's going on down there?
Well, after we ended the show, we had some more activity on her end. The normal stuff, banging on the window, trying to get in the house. They had one instance where the German Shepherd I got her, it's been getting a little bigger. It's about 6-7 months now. And one night, I wasn't there. This is just what I've been told. So what I understand, I guess one of them was messing with the shepherd, and the shepherd wasn't too happy about it. So I guess it kept messing with the shepherd, and the shepherd eventually had enough. And keep up, this isn't a big shepherd yet. Obviously, when this is full grown, it'll be anywhere from 80 to 100 pounds in a big dog. But right now, it's probably about the size of an Australian shepherd, around that size, medium sized.
So the dog's not full grown yet.
Yeah, far from it. But I don't know how. I don't know. I guess the dog had enough, and it went almost like the Hulk, and it broke the chain that was holding the dog in its place, and it ran after something. So that freaks out, Becky and her family in the house. So they come running out, and they're calling after her, "Moose, Moose!" And they hear her run after something. And out of nowhere, they hear like a weird screech or something. And I guess there's like a hill, like a few hundred yards in the tree line where the dog ran. So what it sounds like is, I guess, Moose tackled one of the little Pukwudgies, and they ran down, rolled down the hill fighting. And I guess Moose chopped on it or something, bit in the leg or the arm or whatever. That freaked out the puck, and then the puck fought back, and they heard Moose let out like a whimper, and then I guess they heard the little thing run off. Then Moose came running back, all acting like nothing happened.
Wow.
And the next morning, I came over because they were all freaking out, and I'm tired, I'm like, okay, I got work in an hour. What do y'all want? And they're oh my God, moose got into it with something last night. I'm like, all right. So I go down in the woods, I'm thinking they're probably BSing. She probably ran after a deer or something. But I did find the trail where you could see where something ran through the trees and, broke some branches a little lower than a deer probably would have. I'm not saying that, this is definitive or anything, but it did look like it was skinnier and shorter than a deer would probably be if it was running through that area. And you could see where moose tackled it and it rolled down the hill and they had a scuffle. And you could see little tracks where it ran off, and then you could see the tracks where moose ran back. So it does seem like, I guess, moose tackled one of the pucks and they got into a fight. And I guess she scared it, the bejesus out of it, and it ran off thinking that it barely got away with its life. And moose is thinking, man, nothing happened. I'm going to go back to sleep. So I thought it was pretty funny. They don't think it's that funny. I think it's funny because the dog's like, I'm just doing my job, can we go back to sleep now?
Yeah. Yeah, I drove away the intruder. I tackled him and chomped him too. Can I go back to sleep now?
Exactly. Just like, is it going to stop bothering me now? Can we move me over? Can I have like my own little private place?
Oh my God. So yeah, I can see why they'd be a little bit freaked out about that. Is that work then? As soon as he went after that one, has it been lurking around the house anymore since then?
So after that, it really, we didn't have any activity for like a month and a half, 2 months. And I don't know if maybe the dog incident did scare them. I don't know if maybe, it's something to do with in Texas. Obviously compared to like you're in like 30, 40 degree weather. And for the most part, we've been in like 70 to 60 degree weather, but that's still very cold for animals down here. So, and we had like a little cold point for like 2-3 weeks when they kind of disappeared, where it was getting like 50, 40 degrees every morning. So I think, maybe it was like a little semi-hibernation, or maybe they were stocking up for the winter, or maybe the dog scared them off. Who knows? But so about mid-October, and this is where things kind of switched up on me, is up until mid-October, it's all been on her end of the property. She lives about 30 minutes away across, across the town. And so pretty much for me, it's like, well, as long as I'm not on, on her patch of the woods, I'm safe. I don't have anything to worry about, But so one night she's over and I'm, and it's the middle of the night and the dog wants to be let out. So I'm tired. She's all like, hey, I'm gonna go let the dog out. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I knock back out. So about, I don't know how long, I'm guessing 15, 20 minutes. I was asleep, but she comes running in, screaming, she's crying. And I'm like, okay, what's the issue? And she's like, what? She tells me that she took the dog out and they were walking up on the property. We have about 10 acres of land on my property. So she walks her about halfway across the property. Dog does its business. She's walking back and she hears like a little like, psst, like something's trying to get her attention. And she looks up and about 3-4 feet up the tree. One of the things is they're crouching, staring at her and the dog. So she like freezes out of fear. And so she walks to the left, and its eyes follow her. She walks to the right, its eyes follow her. And she just freaks out. And then, so obviously my dog's pretty big as a Great Pyrenees. He's about 130, 135 pounds right now. And Becky's only like 5 foot. So the dog yanks the leash out of her hand and tries to jump up the tree. So when my dog stands up on its hind feet, I'm about 5'10". She's probably about 5 foot on her hind feet, between 4.5, 5 feet on her hind feet. And that's just her standing up. So she tries to jump up in the tree. And this thing's only about 3-4 feet up in the tree. So she tries to jump up and like grab its leg out of the tree, but the dog barely misses. So the thing hops off, runs into the trees, hops the fence, and runs down the road. And she comes freaking out into my room. So she wakes me up. I'm not too proud of this, but I wasn't especially happy that she woke me up. So you know.
You're
So
like,
I'm
what
like,
the hell are you waking me up for?
yeah, I'm like, come on, man. I just got off like a 10, 12-hour shift, man. I'm trying to get some sleep, you know. So that happens, and pretty much I tell her, look, it's okay. You're in the shed. Go back to sleep, you know. So about 30, 40 minutes later, there's something scratching on the door. And what we have is we have our dogs, kind of trained to where we can let the dogs out. If usually I like to walk them, but if, I'm in like a time crunch or something, or I'm just that tired, I'll let them out. They'll do their business, come back, and they'll scratch on the door to let them back in. So this thing's scratching on the door, whatever it is. And I'm like, let the dog
release the hounds.
Yeah, I'm pretty much like, hey, Becky, like, let the dog out. Come on, like, it's 4 a.m. She's like, the dog's right there. And I look up, I'm like, oh, the dog's right there. So I'm pissed at this point. I'm pissed. I'm trying to get some sleep. I've woken up like 3 different times. I get a machete. I freaking, boom, I kick open the door. I see something run off in the tree line. I'm pissed. I'm yelling, I'm not happy about the non-biblical terms that I use. I called it, let's just say, some very unkind words. And I told it, either leave me the hell alone or I'm going to chop it up into little fillets. And I went back in the shed and I told her it's taken care of, and I went back to bed.
So did you in fact release the hounds on him?
Really, I'm not saying I was smart to go out there with just a machete. That's probably one of the stupidest things I've done, in one of those situations. But I was tired, I didn't care, and I wanted to just go back to sleep. I had work in the morning, and so I just went out there, and I was about ready to fight whatever the hell was scratching on the door. It ran off, and then we didn't have any problems for the rest of the night. So I'm thinking, all right, it's taken care of. Whatever it is, Pukwudgie, fox, Bigfoot, my mom, whatever, it's taken care of,
It's gone.
Exactly. So she takes off, and the next night I'm chilling in my room. I'm doing some, homework for class. I'm typing up a paper. It's me and the dog, and I hear something bang on the side of the wall. So I'm thinking, it's probably just some nature BS. I'm hearing stuff, whatever. Happens again. So I'm starting to get suspicious. I'm like, yeah, nature BS still. Next thing I know, I hear something. It's almost like something hopped up on the side of the wall and like scratched it, kind of like to get gription on it, and then started climbing up the side of the wall and then onto the roof, and it started like jumping up and down on the roof or something. So I'm starting to get freaked out at this point. And then while something's on top of the roof, I hear something kind of like walking around the door, and I have a motion sensor light on my front door, just so like when we walk by, like we can see where we're going. So it's late at night. I'm just staying up to finish this paper. It's like 1, 2 a.m. and the light goes off, and I'm like, okay, well, I know for a fact no one's up right now. So, and I check out the window. I don't see anything. There's still something on top of the roof. And so I'm getting freaked out, and I'm like, all right. So I get the dog and I bring the dog over to my end of the shed because I don't want something to like, because I don't have a lock on my door. And honestly, you can just twist it. It's not even like a regular doorknob. It's like it's almost like one of those like home sheds we turn into like a house. You know what I'm talking about? It's like yeah. So it doesn't give it like a real doorknob. It's really easy to open. So I'm freaked out that, well, maybe these things have been watching long enough. I don't know how long they are here. This is only my second, day dealing with them on my end, but I'm afraid they're going to figure out how to open the door. So I bring the dog out of the end of the shed, and I'm sitting there, and I'm getting really freaked out because then I hear something else bang on the back of the wall. So I'm thinking, all right, there's 2 or 3 of these things for sure. And I can't just like book it to my truck, because if there is something on top of the shed or on the side, then it could easily just kind of cut me off. So I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, crap, I'm screwed. I'm stuck in the shed. I'm going to have to wait it out for the night. So I sit there, I have a Bowie knife in my hand, and I knock out, and I wake up in the morning, and everything's good. So it's one hell of a night. So I'm starting to think, all right, maybe they followed me over. I have a very I'm still driving that '89 Ford, which is
Hold on.
there's only
Before you go forward here, let's go back for a second.
All right.
You're out in the shed. You have the dog in the shed with you.
Yeah.
How did the dog react to all this activity?
So she's bugging out. She's about ready to kick down the door and go after whatever it is. She's barking. She's pissed. She's alert. So that's how I know that it's not just, like a friend or something. Like, she knows all my friends. She knows my girlfriend. She knows my parents, my grandparents. She knows everyone that should be coming to the shed. She knows all the other animals, the other dogs, geese, whatever you want to call it. She knows all the smells, all the sounds. She knows everyone and everything that should be coming near my shed. So that's how I knew that more than likely this is something that shouldn't be around my shed, because she's freaking out.
Right.
So, and
yeah,
she was,
the other
honestly,
thing is that you can't just go, yeah, well, I was just imagining things. Well, the dog was imagining the same things because it was freaking the hell out.
that's why, like, after the third or fourth time I heard a bang and I saw her kind of jerk up and start to, freak out. That's why I got kind of nervous, because it's like, well, I'm not just hallucinating. I'm not just, imagining things. Like my dog, which obviously dogs have a more heightened sense than people do, she knows something's wrong. So obviously I'm going to kind of follow in her example and kind of get ready that for in the possible event that something figures out how to open the door and come in.
Sounds like a wise idea.
So we kind of huddled in the other corner, and I got a machete and a Bowie knife, and I just kind of sat there because I don't have any, weapons in my house. They do in the other houses, but they keep my weapon in one of the other safes. So I don't have a safe in here. So all I have is a big machete and a little Bowie knife. So that's why I sat there in the other corner, ready for something to come in.
Oh man, and you were literally stuck there all night.
That's what was scary to me. Was I kept thinking, like, well, I'm doing all the math. Like, well, something's on the roof. I hear something in the bath. There's something on the side. There shouldn't be anything in the front because there's only 2 to 3 of them. I'm doing all the math. I'm like, well, if I book it, I leave the dog inside the shed, I can make it to the truck and get off the property. And I'm thinking, like, well, no, because I have to open the door. What if the truck doesn't start? I'm thinking all these things. What if I don't make it? What if they cut me off? I'm thinking, well, maybe I can run to someone else's house on the property. Well, what if their door's locked? I'm thinking all these possibilities, and I come to the conclusion that my safest bet is just to stay put in my shed and just wait it out.
Yeah, that sounds pretty tense. I was in that situation one time. It was with a bear that was trying to figure out where I was at, and I had actually crawled up into the rafters of the garage. And he saw me go in the garage. He followed me in there looking for me.
Oh, my God.
Walking around down below me. And I had to stay up there it was close to an hour before he actually left. Because there's a couple of times that he went out of the garage, and it was like 5 or 10 minutes, and I'd be like, oh, did he leave? Maybe I should start getting down. And then he'd come back in the garage again. So, I made really sure. And then when I finally did get down, I lowered myself down onto the workbench, picked up a sledgehammer in one hand and a double-bitted axe in the other one, and, worked my way slowly out the door, saw if he was around or not, and then pretty much hightailed it to the house as fast as I could go.
Yeah. Luckily, we don't have bear, at least in my area. You might have like 1 or 2 pass through like every 5 years, but for the most part, I'm lucky to say that I don't think I'll ever be in that situation as long as I'm here.
Hopefully. Yeah, this guy was a
Exactly.
big monster, too. He was bad news. He finally got killed by a state patrol car, hit him when they were on their way to a call by accident. He was running across the road and they nailed him. He was
Ooh.
720 pounds. He left the track in our nice hard packed gravel driveway that was front footprint was about 7.5 inches across. So he was
Oh,
big.
my God.
Yeah. Anyway, so getting back to your being stuck in the damn shed all night. So in the morning, you managed to hightail it out of there and be okay. So what's now happened since that one?
So since then, we're thinking that they probably either followed my truck just because my truck's so distinguishable from other trucks in her area, or they must have hopped in my bed, because it's happened to a couple people in that area where, for one instance, one guy, he had like a flat tire or something. He pulled over, he was fixing it. One of the little things popped up, freaked him out, freaked the little thing out. I don't know why the little thing was freaked out. I knew a guy was in the front seat. So then the little thing hopped out and ran off in the woods. Dude's freaked out. There's something in the bed of his truck. So I'm thinking either they followed me or they hopped in the bed of the truck. I just didn't notice. So since
Gotta
then,
be how those little suckers figured out where you lived to start with. One of them probably hitched a ride with you.
that's what I'm thinking. Is more than likely is, one or two of them. Because I have a toolbox and there's like a little space under the toolbox in my bed. So I'm thinking
crawl in there and they'd be out of the wind and you wouldn't be able to see them and everything.
Exactly, because I usually drive to her house at night just because of work schedule and stuff. So I'm thinking it was too dark for me to see them under the toolbox, or they hopped up under the exhaust pipe or something, hitched the ride. But since then, really, they've been affecting a lot of things besides just me. They've been affecting wildlife here pretty badly. We used to have a huge group of coyotes, probably at least 30 of them. You'd hear them go off every 2-3 nights. They bring down like a deer or something. They get excited. We haven't heard them in weeks. Which is unusual. So I'm thinking maybe they chased them out of the damn country. And the deer, we used to have a huge herd of deer. They moved up a couple miles up the road. The only animals that have really stayed put are either farm animals or like raccoons and possums, like the little rodents.
Right.
All
Everything
the dogs.
Good size is gone. What do you think happened to the coyotes? Gulp.
Yeah, exactly. Either they killed them off or the coyotes knew better and they moved on.
Yeah, I hope
Hopefully
they join forces with them and now they'll be riding around on coyotes for horses.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't want them to have like little like coyote motorcycles running around out here.
Yeah, that'd be really bad.
One thing its effect is not just my dog, but the other dogs are all on edge. It's every night, 2-3 a.m. I don't know where you'll hear them barking off in the dark, and then one of us will go out with like a flashlight, and you scan the woods. There's nothing. You go back inside. Then the dogs start raising hell again. So obviously there's something out there. So the dogs know there's something out there. We just can't see it, and it's. Like, I haven't told anyone else on my property because at the same time, like, I love them, but I don't want to be called, like, the crazy person of the family either,
Yeah. Well, so the other thing is if they believe you and they decide that there actually is something there, then you get blamed for dragging it there.
Exactly. And while people may find that, like, oh, man, like, you should tell your family, well, they're just bothering me for now. Like, honestly, none of my family members I really noticed anything wrong except like the coyotes and the deer and the dogs, like they're not getting, stared at by something 3 feet up in a tree or something climbing up on top of the roof,
Good.
We had one instance where, so like a recap, obviously I live in the middle of Texas. We don't really have like a coyote is about the biggest common predator you'll have. Every few years, you'll have the supposed mountain lion or black bear, but really only coyotes are here, Like, I'm not saying people are liars, but, scientifically, supposedly there's only coyotes.
You even have red wolves around there?
Red wolves, as far as I know, Texas-wise, they're considered extinct, but there's like a population that kind of switch over between East Texas and Louisiana. So they're technically extinct because I guess those are like Louisiana red wolves, but they're still in Texas, however you want to look at it type thing, from what I understand.
So they're designated Louisiana wolves that just don't know where the border is.
Exactly. So as far as I know, they aren't necessarily Texas red wolves, but there are red wolves in Texas that come from Louisiana pretty much.
Okay. So they're officially blaming Louisiana. Got it. So anyway, you just don't have any large predatory animals other than coyotes around there that can be causing this nuisance.
I really no. And one night, which kind of raised all of like neighbors, us, and everything, is obviously we're in Texas, huge hog problem around here. They don't get as big as other parts of Texas, but you can easily find a 400 or 500 pound hog. So one night, we have a little group of hogs, a herd, whatever you want to call them. And they kind of wander around properties and they tear up all our land and they're a nuisance. So one night, something we still have no idea what to this day what it was. I guess there was 3 or 4 hogs, and they were raising hell, and something was messing with them. So all night long, and this pissed me off because it was one of those nights where I just got off work. I got work in the morning, so I'm trying to get what few hours of sleep I can. All night you hear the hogs squealing, and they're charging something. Then you hear something, chase the hogs back, and something would attack the hog, and the hog would squeal, and yada 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 on for like an hour or two. So the next night on my way to work, I'm driving down the road about a mile and a half down the road. I see 3 of the hogs. They looked about at least 200 to 300 pounds apiece. One might have been 400. We'll call it about 300. That's still a good sized hog,
Yeah.
Something completely mutilated the hogs, gutted them, took the liver and the heart and left the rest and said to hell with them and ran off with whatever it took. And considering that these are 3, about 1,000 pounds of hog combined, not even like a large pack of coyotes is dumb enough to really mess with, 3 or 4 hogs that size, So it brings the question, what the hell would have messed with hogs that big in the middle of the night, and then not only to just take meat, but only take the heart and the liver, they didn't even take like intestines or anything.
Right. That almost sounds like the way Bigfoot hunts stuff, and they sometimes just do that. They just grab those few internal organs and leave the rest of it there too.
Exactly. And that freaked out the entire neighborhood. So all of a sudden, all of us and our neighbors are, we're locking our doors. We're bringing our dogs inside at night for 2 weeks. We're all on like practically red alert. It's like freaking Alcatraz on our road. Everyone's on, high alert, spotlights everywhere. We're all watching out for whatever the hell could take on 3 or 4 300-pound hogs.
Yeah, whatever it is isn't any pushover, because even one hog that size is more than an average person could handle. A lot more.
Exactly. So that's why everyone was freaked out, is because, there's nothing big enough in this area, and hog is about, as big and bad as you can take on in our area. That's like what an elephant is to Africa for us in the middle of Texas, is a damn hog.
As far as that goes, just about any environment that they live in, they do pretty well, because they're super tough. They're really smart. They work in gangs. They beat up things that try and go after them. Go watch some of these videos of the boonie pigs or the, what are they called? The warthogs over there in Africa chasing lions away and stuff.
Exactly.
They're bad news, man.
So that legit freaked everyone out. And we've had a few other instances where, it's tough for me to walk on the property at night now. Like, for example, I don't have like a washer and dryer in my place. When I got to do laundry, I got to do it at someone else's house. So I'll walk to, like my mom's house, because it's a compound. The entire family lives on one property. So I'll go walk over to her end of the property. But it's tough now at night, because I'll be walking and you can hear something following you in the woods, and you'll start, speed walking a little bit like an old grandma does, and then it'll start speed walking, and you'll start running. It'll start running, and it's almost like how when you hear like how Bigfoot follows people, except it doesn't sound that big. It sounds small and little, like a little baby.
Oh God.
So, and then you'll bust out a flashlight or something, and there's nothing there. It's too dark. It's too deep in the wood line to see. So then you keep walking, it'll keep walking. You run, it runs, and you stop, it stops. And it's scary. And there's even been a couple times where you'll hear like a little like sound or like a screech, and you're like, what the hell is that?
Jeez. That'd be cool if you could get a recording of one of these weird vocalizations they're making. That would be a handy thing.
It's getting tough, honestly. It's almost like they know when you have a damn camera in your hand, or you have a flashlight.
Sure. That would surprise me.
It's ridiculous, and they know. Like it just amazes me how intelligent they are. Like, for example, they watched my dog scratch on my door to be let inside, so now they know to scratch the door. Except, I think they don't realize that if the dog's inside, I'm not going to let them in.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, it's one of those things where you're almost scared to let the dogs go after them or something too, because who knows if they got a trap set for them or if they decided to use chemical warfare and they're using poison weapons or what they're going to do.
Exactly. I mean, like I love my dog too much. Like if she goes after one, like I'm gonna have to go after her. You know, she's almost like a child to me. I've had her since she was a little puppy and I was a little kid. You know, so I don't want her to out of instinct go after one of these things and get ambushed in the damn woods because like where there's one of them, there's probably at least 2 or 3 others, if not 5 to 10. You know.
Yeah, they may be little, but they're sneaky and they can gang up on things. That's how humans always won too, by ganging up.
Exactly. So we've had that, and I had one other instance where I don't know if this is necessarily like a Pukwudgie or whatever, but one night I was walking the dog out, and it was late at night. It was like probably like midnight. I got home late. I hadn't let her out yet, so I felt kind of bad. I was like, "Come on, I'll let you out." Sorry, I was out with a couple friends, so I'm bringing her out, and we're bringing her along the tree line, and I can hear something walking. I'm like, "Oh, great, not this crap again." So this is like a couple months after everything started, and out of nowhere, like I hear like a vocalization, but it was almost like a hyena laughter off of, like if you watch like a documentary, you hear like a hyena laugh, and that's what it sounded like. And that freaked me out. That absolutely freaked me out. And so I stopped like dead in my tracks, and I hear it again, and I go, hell no. And I know this wasn't smart, but I started booking it as fast as I could. I'm dragging the dog by the collar. I'm going, come on, Olive, whatever that is, you're not big enough to take it on, let's go inside. And we go inside, I lock the door, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, oh my God, what the hell was that? Because obviously it's one thing to have a Pukwudgie, but to have something sound like as big and bad as a hyena is another thing, So that was like scary as hell, and it actually freaked me out for about a week.
How close was this to when you found the dead pigs?
This was probably about 2 to 3 weeks after the dead pigs.
Okay.
And it wasn't even like it wasn't like close to me, but it wasn't far away either. It was probably like 50 yards to 100 yards away from me.
Oh God.
So it wasn't like right next to me, but obviously close enough to where if it wanted to, it could have gotten me, whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Have you ever run across that video on YouTube they got of people, they're outside in the dark, and it sounds like there's this weird maniacal laughter, like a hyena or the Joker or somebody is out in the woods going off. And
yeah,
they stood there and recorded it for a while. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing?
Honestly, it's pretty similar to that. It was like just loud enough to where I could hear it, but it's almost like it wasn't loud enough to where the whole property could hear it. It's like it wanted just me to hear it, and that's what I think freaked me out the most. Is it was like it's almost like it was directed at me. You know what I mean? It's like it's looking at me, and it's directing this call at me, but it doesn't want to alert anyone else on the property to come near me. To create a more complex situation for whatever it was in that tree line.
So you felt like the sound was being directed at you, so like maybe the rest of the neighbors wouldn't even hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Like pretty much as if this thing wants to let me know that it's there, but it doesn't want to let anyone else know that it's there. Pretty much as if it's directing whatever that message was toward me, whether it was like a territorial thing or predatory or just a, watch yourself, I'm here type of thing. It was directed at me, but not loud enough to where anyone else could have heard it.
Damn. So at the same time, all this activity around where you're at is ramped up. What's been happening at the girlfriend's house?
So at her, and they've been getting completely bombarded night in and night out, is they're almost like little raiders at this point. As they come in, they start, I don't know if they're getting like sticks or something, but it's almost, they said like the banging was getting louder. And I was pretty much like, well, I mean, it's not like they're going to Gold's Gym and squatting 300 pounds. I mean, they're probably getting some sticks or clubs or something, and they're beating the hell out of the wall.
Right.
I know that they did try to, I guess, pry open a window, I guess they've been watching how you open a window, and they tried to open it, like get their hands underneath the front of it from the outside, and they tried to lift it, but you can only lift them from the inside. So I don't think they figured that out yet, but they're figuring out kind of how the window works. So I told them, like, you need to start locking those windows and stop opening them.
Don't ever leave them unlocked.
Exactly. So I pretty much told her, like, you're lucky that they haven't quite figured out that window. Just leave it locked. Don't mess with the windows. Even during the day, like, screw the windows. Open the door,
Yeah. Well, as long as you got a dog there to protect the threshold, make sure nothing sneaks in it.
Yeah, exactly. I know that, I guess since the whole incident where Moose tackled the puck, they've completely left that side of the house alone, and they've left the side where the pit bull is at. So at this point, there's just kind of like the front and then one of the sides where they're bombarding it. So I pretty much told her, I was like, well, if you really want to take care of it, you can get another big dog, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously that'll pretty much stop it at that point. You're like, damn it. You got the whole yard surrounded with big, nasty dogs. You can't get in.
Exactly, because I think with the pit bull, they kind of didn't want to risk it. But the shepherd, they were like, all right, it's smaller, we can take it on. But when the shepherd, kicked that puck in the teeth, they were like, okay, maybe not. So they're kind of leaving that alone, because don't get me wrong, they could take on both those dogs if they wanted to. But I think they're smart enough to know that if they take on both those dogs, they might lose 2 or 3 or 4 pucks in the process. And in their minds, that's not worth it at this moment.
Right. Well, if they're anything like us, they don't want to lose any pucks.
Exactly. So I think that they're just kind of playing it safe. And since 2 sides of the house aren't protected, they're going with those and leaving the 2 sides that are protected alone. Now, maybe if they get 2 or more dogs and the house is surrounded, they'll still come after them. I don't know. But at the moment, it's looking like dogs are just not their main priority right now.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. It seems like you're taking all the precautions and trying to do everything you can to be aware of the hazards and not put yourself in the position where you're going to get wasted by them.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. I'm trying my best, at least to my abilities at this moment.
And if you got to walk around at night, always make sure you got a weapon with you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start doing that whether I like it or not on my own property.
Yep.
So,
who knows when they decide like 4 or 5 of them are going to jump you all at once in the dark or something. It'd be pretty handy to have a machete or a pistol right about then.
Exactly. So it's been, it's been annoying as hell. I think, as weird as it sounds, I'm getting kind of used to it, because at the same time, there's only so much I can do about it. It's not like I can go out there with a, flamethrower and set all the woods on fire and kill them all,
Have you considered the minefield option? I know a lot of
Exactly.
things are actually legal in Texas. Is that on the list?
I feel like I could actually get away with it, whether that sounds reasonable or not. But we had some guys, they had like, it's similar to like dynamite, I forget what it's called, but they would use those as target practice. So it sounded like, World War II was happening across the street. So I think
Right.
I could actually get away with that. So
Well, it's
I
got to be cheaper than the gator mode option. I don't know what else.
I think that's a lot cheaper. I don't think I could afford the food costs on that.
You could set a Pukwudgie trap if there's some metal fittings on one of the windows. You could just electrify it from the inside and wait for him to try and pry it up again.
Yeah, exactly right. But I mean, other than that, I did have a really recent one where probably 2 or 3 nights ago, Becky was walking up back from my mom's. She put some laundry in the washer, and she had one chase her out from the tree line and off across the property. And she ran back into the shower. I wasn't home. I was at work. So she texted me like, "Hey, I got chased." And I was like, "By what?" She's like, "Well, I mean, take a guess. It was one of the little pucks." So that freaked her out that one of them chased her across the property. So they do seem more bold with her than me, at least, and whether that's just a male female type of thing. They see me as like so like the big like macho man or whatever, and her as like the easy target, whether that's it or it's something completely else, I don't know. But they are definitely
from the background we went over already, it sounds like there is a generational attachment and they're sort of out to get her.
exactly.
And it seems to me like they're probably interested in you because you're more or less her protector. So they need to get rid of you in order to get her.
So, I mean, I guess if on the bright side, they're not as bold with me. So I'm in less danger than her, I guess you could say, but I'm still in, I guess, enough danger to warrant consideration to kind of plan my actions ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, don't go wandering off half-cocked or quarter-cocked or no-cocked or any of them kind of situations.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I wish I could offer you some more sage advice other than the minefield or gator mode option, but
I mean, if I had the money, I think I could get away with it. But
well, all kidding aside, though, you guys be careful down there. I know this is a bad situation, and it almost makes me wonder if there's something other than them wandering around down there now. It could take out 300-pound hogs.
Sometimes it seems like it. We've even had instances where the neighbors' dogs, they're like, I'm not sure what they are. They seem like pit bull mixes, but they're still good size, 70, 80 pounds. But you'll have nights where I guess the dogs get loose and you can hear them barking and raising up hell, and they'll run into the woods half cocked, and something either, I guess, attacks them or scares them or something. And you'll hear them yelp and they'll start running back, tail between their legs. You can hear it. And then the owner, freaks out because it's like, oh my God, what happened to my dog? And he brings them into his house and shuts the door. And that's happened 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night, and you can hear it happen.
God.
So I don't know if there's something else out here that's messing with them, but sometimes it does seem like there's something else out here besides just the 2 or 3 pucks that I have on my property.
Yeah, it almost makes me wonder about it, especially with the whole pack of coyotes just kind of disappearing. That's really suspicious, too.
Like, I'm not saying that they wouldn't be scared of pucks, but I feel like if those coyotes wanted to, they could either coexist or fight off the pucks, in a sense.
Well, and the other thing you got to think of, too, is if, one mid-size German Shepherd could have a rumble with the pucks and scare them away, how would they defeat a whole,
Pack of
a whole pack of coyotes?
So sometimes it does seem, just from like hearing things and seeing, slaughtered 300-pound hogs, that there's something out here that, I just can't figure out, whether that's a Bigfoot or a dogman or some crazy, redneck. I don't know. But it does seem like there's something else.
Yeah, just be careful. There's other cryptids running around the woods, and it could be a Sasquatch and could be something else. So just don't take stupid chances. Make sure you're armed if you're walking around.
Exactly. I'll definitely, keep my wits about me. I can promise you that.
All right, brother. Well, thanks so much for coming back on the show and updating us, and make sure that you let us know what's happening here in the future, okay?
I definitely will. You got my word on that.
All right, man. And for everybody else out there, if you still need to get Christmas presents, they're available. We have 2 really cool t-shirt designs. You can get them at teesprings.com/stores/world-Bigfoot-Central. And go there, check them out. And we have mugs and hoodies. Hoodies being awesome this time of year. Be back with you with another episode next week. Until then, don't hug the woods.